Saturnalia. If you lived in ancient Rome, you'd be pretty used to hearing this festive greeting around this time of year. Saturnalia, dubbed the best of days by the poet Catullus, fell on December 17th, but later expanded to several days of merrymaking, with up to a full week devoted to celebrating the holiday by the early imperial era. The festival honored Saturn, the Roman god of agriculture and time. Ancient etymologists connected the name Saturnus with the Latin word sator, meaning sower. This has led some modern scholars to believe that Saturnalia originated as an agricultural festival. The celebration began with a religious ceremony at the Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum, where a sacrifice was offered at the god's altar and his cult statue was freed from the woolen ties which bound his feet during the rest of the year. This act represented a symbolic return to the Golden Age, when the world was ruled by Saturn, and the freedom associated with this mythic past. Afterwards, there was a massive banquet open to the public at large. Following this, the party moved to private homes, which the Romans decorated with wreaths and greenery. This was a time for feasting, drinking, jokes, and gift-giving. It was also a time marked by temporary social inversion. Romans traded in their togas for the brightly colored synthesis or canatoria, and donned the pileus, a type of felt cap typically associated with newly manumitted freedmen. Enslaved people themselves were afforded certain privileges and freedoms unparalleled at any other point in the Roman calendar. They were permitted to dine with their enslavers, or were sometimes even served by them. This superficial role reversal is often viewed as a mechanism of social control, reinforcing the normative social hierarchy and providing a space to alleviate some of the anxieties and tension that built up surrounding the institution of slavery within a controlled environment. Frederick Douglass, reflecting on his experience celebrating Christmas as a slave in Maryland, observed a similar mechanism. From what I know of the effect of these holidays upon the slave, I believe them to be among the most effective means in the hands of the slaveholder in keeping down the spirit of insurrection. Were the slaveholders at once to abandon this practice, I have not the slightest doubt it would lead to an immediate insurrection among the slaves. These holidays serve as conductors, or safety valves, to carry off the rebellious spirit of enslaved humanity. Not all Romans were thrilled about the holiday festivities, especially since it wasn't uncommon for things to get a little rowdy. In addition to excessive bouts of drinking and the recital of mock poetry and riddles, gambling, which was normally illegal, was now fair game. The Stoic philosopher Seneca the Younger, in particular, objected to what he viewed as displays of intemperate behavior. He advises that Stoics should use the time to strengthen their soul in preparation for future hardship by abstaining from the customary self-indulgence, likening this to a soldier practicing maneuvers during times of peace. Nevertheless, Saturnalia remained popular among the general public. It was widely celebrated long after it was no longer officially recognized as a public religious holiday by the state. By the 4th century CE, Western Christian churches had fixed the date for celebrating Christmas on December 25th. This timing made it easier for some of the customs associated with Saturnalia to be absorbed into the celebration of Christmas. This is why we can see many parallels between the traditions associated with both holidays, such as decorating with greenery, eating a large meal with friends and family, and gift-giving. It was fairly common to give gifts accompanied by a written epigram. The 1st century poet Martial composed 2 books of these poetic gift tags, granting us insight into the types of gifts that were popular amongst the Romans. Here are 10 of my favorite gifts mentioned in the collection. Coming in at number 10, we have mushrooms. Martial writes that while it's easy to send silver, gold, a cloak, or gown, it's difficult to send mushrooms. Mushrooms were a delicacy, especially in the winter, so it could be kind of hard to part with them. Think of it as the ancient equivalent of gifting gourmet truffles or artisanal snacks. Practical, edible, and classy. For number 9, we have Murexes. These shellfish were prized for their use in making Tyrian purple, the most expensive color in the ancient world. To gift someone Murexes was to gift them luxury itself, though they could be kind of stinky. At number 8, for all you D&D nerds, we have ivory knucklebones. The Romans originally used the knucklebones of hoofed animals like dice in games of chance. They later adopted imitations of these bones, made out of wood, clay, ivory, and metal. These were especially useful during Saturnalia, where gambling was not only legal, but encouraged. In a similar vein, at number 7, we have board games. One popular board game was called Latrunkely, a two-player strategy game often compared to chess or checkers. At number 6, we have hunting spears. For those in the leisure class, hunting wasn't just an aristocratic sport, but a symbol of status and masculinity. I personally wouldn't be too thrilled to unwrap a set of spears this holiday season, but each to their own. For number 5, we're delving into the self-care territory with Strigiles. These metal scrapers were used at the baths to remove dirt and oil from the skin. They weren't the gentlest form of exfoliation, but they were fairly practical, especially for athletes. At number 4, we have one of my favorites, a snow strainer. Romans would put a lump of snow in the strainer and pour wine over top to chill it. I can only imagine this is what Franzia had in mind when they came up with the name chillable red. Clocking in at number 3, we have candles. These weren't just festive decor. Saturn was said to have guided humanity out of the darkness and into a state of enlightenment. By exchanging candles, the Romans were reminding each other of this time of illumination. At number 2, we have wax writing tablets, perfect for poets and accountants alike. You'd write on the tablets by scratching into the wax surface, and could later smooth out the wax when you wanted to reuse it. You could write, erase, and rewrite your thoughts endlessly. And finally, at number 1, we have books. Hands down the best gift in ancient and modern times. Copies of texts from authors such as Homer, Virgil, Ovid, and Propertius were considered luxury presents. If you're giving or receiving a book this holiday season, you're keeping an over 2,000-year-old tradition alive. Regardless of how you celebrate, I wish you joy and light this holiday season. As always, sources for this video can be found in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.